Hey all, Lawrence from Express Unity. I hope everyone's having a great Christmas, and today I'm going to be starting a little mini-series over the next couple of days on just some basics of TNET. Now, if you guys enjoy this little mini-series, then I will continue to make videos on TNET. Ideally, I want to fully switch over from Photon to TNET, just as TNET has started to suit my own style of programming and whatnot better than Photon has, and I just like the fact that I don't need to worry about a CCU limit. I just can get a cheap VPS or use my own local computer to prototype a server. When I'm ready to launch it, I can get a cheap VPS, say $15, that could run a couple of hundred users depending on what your game is and how intensive multiplayer is for your game, but it's a cheaper solution for sure, but there is a little bit more work to do with it, as it doesn't really have its own. I mean, it kind of does, but its own room system. You kind of need to do a little bit of code yourself to get that working properly, but it's nothing too heavy. So it's all pretty simple stuff. So in this first video of the TNET mini-series, I'm just going to be showing you guys how to set up a basic server, and I will be showing you guys how to just get a client up and running, so that we can connect to that server. So you'll have all these folders once you get TNET. Oh yeah, also forgot to say, TNET is $95. This is in USD, so it is an upfront cost. However, in my personal opinion on the product, it is very well worth it. Unlike Photon, where you pay $90 or whatever and you get the 100 CCU for 12 months, I believe. You pay $95, you get everything, unlimited CCU, you get quite a lot of features, honestly. One of my most favorite features that TNET has is persistent functions. So basically what this allows you to do is create a function that say changes the color of the user, and if the server turns off, if the client disconnects and they return, if the server starts back up and they return, that function will still be called when they return, so everything should be exactly the same. It's basically like saving variables, except you're saving a function and its state. It's pretty cool. So that being said, we will start with creating a basic server for TNET. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new folder called scripts. I'm also going to create a folder inside of here called server, and this is going to be all our code for our server. But now I'm going to create a C# script, and I'm just going to call this one server. Now, another thing that I want to do, now just is from personal experience, basically I found out that it's actually very, very easy to hack into a Unity game, see data like strings. If, for example, if I use an API of some sort and I just have the link in code, it's very easy to get that. So I did try this in a little project. Let me see. Basically, we want to use in other settings. Yes. So in other settings in the configuration where it says scripting backend, we want to use the IL to CPP. Basically, what this does is converts your C# code into C++ code and then compiles it. And this basically makes it a lot harder for people to see certain functions inside of your game. So changing the scripting backend is something I do recommend. It does break some things, as I think it might still be in beta, at least in the version I'm using, which is 2018 4.2. I have not updated yet, just because I have a lot of personal projects on this version of Unity, so I'm not really ready to make the switch just yet. Okay, so with that done, let's open up our TNET server script. And wait for it. All right, cool. So, it's still loading up. We'll give it a few seconds. All right. So, first thing we want to be using is TNET, obviously. And instead of using mono behavior, we want to use TN event receiver. And this is basically how we're going to set up our server. So, just for now, to make it easier if we ever need to access this class, we're going to create a public static. We're going to call it a TNET server. And this is going to be an instance so that if we ever need it, we can always call it. And then this is, of course, going to be, so instance is equal to this. Alrighty, so, alright, I think we might just make this awake. So, void awake, we're just gonna set the instance. And another thing we might want to do just for safety is we want to say, if instance is equal to null, then we're going to do this. And we also don't want to destroy this. Otherwise, we are going to destroy the current game object. Okay, so we want to do a few things. We want to create a couple of ints. So I'm going to call this S port for server port. And I'm just going to make this something like 2222. You can make it anything you want. And we're going to make another public int. And this is going to be the server's TCP port. And I'm just going to make this 2223. Now, you also want a public string. I'm going to call this one S_IP. And this can be changed in your code. For now, I'm just going to hard code it here. And I'm just going to point this IP to my local machine. So 127.0.0.1 is just the same as saying localhost. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And this is basically going to point to my computer. And it'll set everything up all fancy for us. Now, what we want to do is have a protected override. And this is going to be on connect, I believe. We're going to leave the base on connect up the top. And we are just going to make... So if it is a successful connection, we are just going to say debug, or rather, no, I believe it is debug. So debug.log, and we're just going to say server has been created. Okay, so now another thing we want to do, just in case something happens on the server, is we're just going to create an override for the on error function, and we're just going to say debug.log error, and we're just going to log the message. Now, what we want to do is inside of the awake, when we create our instance, we are going to say tn manager.onPlayerJoin. And this is going to be equal to a function that we create called a player join. And we will create that down here. We will just say void on player join. And this is going to take two arguments. The first one is going to be the int. And this is going to be the channel ID. And the second one, I might just shorten this to ID just to make it easier. And the second one is going to be our player, which is ourselves. And this is just going to be a protected override as well. So make that a protected override, and you also want to do the base on player join and just pass in the current parameters like so. Now, just to debug this, we're just gonna say new player joined with the ID, and if we actually put a $sign in front of our string, we can just pass in our ID like so. Okay, so now I think I removed the start function. Yes, I did. So now we do want to create a start method or function, whatever you want to call it. We're just going to say if tn server instance dot start, and we are going to use the TCP port. We are then going to just use our regular port, which I believe is UDP. Yeah, it's UDP. And then this is the important one. We want to create a server file name, and this is going to be what the server saves anything global that you want. This could be some state of a function or some global inventory that someone can access. So just call it server data.dat. It can be any extension. I just like using DAT for data. And the next thing is open port. Can't remember what I set this on. I'm just gonna set it to false for now, and if something doesn't work, we'll set it to true. And then all we need to say is tnmanager.connect, and that's basically how the server starts. Very basic. We should be able to get onto our client and connect to this server now. So what we can do is I'm just going to create, or rather save, in scenes. I'm going to create a new server scene, and I'll just save that again just in case. And in build settings, I am going to tick server build, because we don't really need any of these visuals. It will just, if you do end up putting this on a VPS or something, it'll just end up slowing it down and use more resources. So we just need a console build. We don't really need any graphical input unless you want your server to spectate everything. But then in order to do that, you also have to make server code that will basically translate everything. Whereas if we just make a server build, all we need to worry about is the clients, and the server does its own thing. So we are now going to build and run, and I'm just going to create a new folder and call this builds. And I'm going to create another folder here and call that server. We are now going to build the server. Just wait for this one to work. And you can see it's building with the with what we want, with the IL2 CPP and not mono. So this would just help when help prevent hackers, basically. Don't get me wrong, still going to be super easy to hack if someone knows what they're doing, but any amateur it will be pretty hard for them. But I have found a few assets that I found to be pretty cool. So if anyone wants me to just demonstrate what those assets do to protect your multiplayer game, I can do that indeed. Little downside to building in this though is it does take a little bit longer to compile, just because it's trying to convert all your code. Should only take this long for the first time. After it's figured it out, it should be pretty fast because it's it generates like a whole C++ project for this individual scene, which I guess you can edit. I'll show you once it finishes compiling. Alright, we got that good old of us thinking it's a virus. So let it do its thing. Hopefully it doesn't think it's a virus, because that's going to be a very big pain for this video. Okay, there we go. Okay, so should be giving us a message. Should say the server has been created, which is not. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start these. Oh, you know why? We never actually drag the script onto anything. So just inside the server, create a new game object and just call it server. And then drag that script onto there, and then you have all our settings there. So that's why. So if we actually start just in the editor now. Yeah, we have, it says bands file not found, admins file not found, it's all looking normal. And at the end it says server has been created. Okay, so let us try that again. Build and run. Shouldn't take that long to compile now that it's already done it. Hopefully. Yeah, there it is. A lot faster. Okay, and then just allow the process. And we should see here, yep, it says server has been created. So that is great. We now have a server, so I'm going to drag that just in my other window. And we are now going to create the client. So create a new scene. Just call it client. And in the scripts folder, we are now going to create a new folder called client. And inside, whoops, and inside, oh, what has happened? Inside of this folder, I'm going to create a new script, and I'm just going to call it connect to server. And I'm now going to create, we'll do this first this time so we don't forget. I'm going to create a new game object. I'm going to call it connect to server. And we're going to drag that on there. So the first thing we want to do is be using TNET. And we are going to be wanting to use TN object. Oops, sorry, TN behavior, not object. TN behavior. And on the void start, all we're going to do is say TN manager.connect, and we are going to connect to our local host, and we are going to use our UDP port, I believe. So that should now get us to connect to the server. So should give us some sort of log if we have successfully connected. Yeah, and there we have this little script that is created called TN object. It says the owner is the editor. This if this shows up, then yeah, you're basically connected fine. Nothing shows up on the server end as we haven't really set anything for that up, but we should be connected. Oh, hold up, we got a warning. Your game is missing TN objects. Okay. So this connector server script, we need to add a TN object, and we want to just assign a unique ID because it is a scene object. It's not something that's going to be instantiated. Now, if we play, we should see, yeah. So if we clear this and we exit, we should see disconnected. We see disconnected, so everything is working fine. We can, of course, now go ahead and add a few things. So we want to use the void on enable and the void on disable. And we just want to say TN manager. Oh my goodness, I cannot type. I have Christmas stuck in my head, so I keep trying to spell it with Xmas as well. Ain't working out. So TN manager dot on connected, and we're gonna create our own function for this. And then we're also gonna say TN manager dot on join channel. And these are all things that we will be creating. And then for the on disable, it's very important that you do this. What just happened? Very important that you do this because sometimes it may not unassign itself, and that could lead to some sort of memory leak, although I have not experienced any myself. So first thing we want to do is say void on connect, and we are going to have not on connected to server, just on connect. And we are going to have two parameters. One is going to be a bool. We're going to call this one success. And the other one is going to be a string called owner. And just for now, we're just going to say if success, and we'll leave that there. Now we're going to create the onJoin channel. So private void onJoin channel. Just gonna click out so it doesn't autofill. And this is going to have three parameters, one an ID, or arguments rather. Yeah, an ID. We're gonna have the success bool as well, and we're going to have the owner string. Alrighty, so what we can do now is when we are connected, we are going to say TN manager dot join channel, and you never want to have the channel below 100, as the TNET services may instantiate their own channels and they have a fixed channel number. So anything over 100 should be fine, and you can get pretty crazy with the channel ID. So I'm just going to set the channel ID to 1000. And what we can do now is basically instantiate a object on our onJoin channel. So for now, because we are getting close to the end of this video, we are just going to debug.log, and we're going to say I have joined a channel. Alrighty, so while I've still got the server up and running, let's see how this goes. There we go. So we connected to the server. We have then called the onJoin channel function, and we are now joined into the channel. So that is pretty good. So I think that is all I'm going to be doing for this episode. It's already dragged on to 24 minutes, so I don't want to get it too long. But we have created our own basic server and our own kind of connector for our client so that we can start spawning in our objects and whatnot. So for this particular project, because it is using a plugin that does require a purchase, I won't upload this project. However, I will upload these 2 scripts if anyone wants to check them out and download. So these will be on the free assets in the Discord server. So once again, if you guys liked the video, please subscribe, give it a like, comment down below what you want to see in this TNET series. I do only have a couple of days, just as a little Christmas break that I have from work. So I'm trying to get 1 video done a day. The survival series is still something I'll be doing, but I just wanted to kind of have a little bit of a break just for these couple of days and do something different. Just over the small Christmas weekend that I've ended up getting. But yeah, just let me know in the comments what you guys want to see with TNET. Whether it's saving and loading data, maybe some server-sided stuff, because I have started getting into learning a few server-sided things with TNET, so I can show you guys what I currently know with that. But yeah, thank you guys for sticking around and watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.